Well, the oddly never-ending Clinton email controversy takes another turn as federal judge now has ordered an additional fact-finding mission into whether Clinton's use of a private email system was a deliberate effort to thwart the Freedom of Information Act. That judge says that despite previous Clinton email investigations, conservative group Judicial Watch should be permitted to demand documents and additional testimony about the practice. Jillian Turner is live in Washington with more. So, Jillian, this is a really interesting turn.
One that not a lot of people saw coming either, Harris. So a U.S. District Court Judge, Royce Lamberth, has issued a new 11-page order addressing Clinton's use of a private email server when she was the Secretary of State. It includes a blistering critique of the State Department, the Justice Department, and of Clinton herself. The order insists, despite the multiple congressional and FBI investigations already completed, there's still questions that remain unanswered in the eyes of the law. Judge Lamberth says the court needs more facts in order to determine whether Clinton set up her private email server for the specific purpose of dodging the Freedom of Information Act. It's known as FOIA. Now, that's a law that allows American citizens to request access to any official government information anytime. Lamberth writes, the government shouldn't keep information confidential merely because public officials may be embarrassed by disclosure, because errors and failures may be revealed, or because of speculative or abstract fears. This ruling comes in response to a filing by conservative judicial advocacy group Judicial Watch, and it supports their bid to continue seeking access to official documents and even requesting further testimony from the people involved. Referencing the State Department, Judge Lamberth continues, the court takes no pleasure in questioning the intentions of the nation's most august executive departments, but it still remains unknown whether Clinton used a private email server to duck FOIA requests. Judicial Watch has responded to this order enthusiastically, perhaps not surprisingly, saying they'll hope it'll induce state and justice to be more cooperative. President of the group, Tom Fitton, adds he hopes the agencies will take the judge's criticism to heart. But Harris government insiders here in Washington tell Fox News there's a fat chance that that will happen.
I bet that was a direct quote.
Yes.
Jillian, great to see you. Thank you very much. And you've set me up perfectly for my next guest. The president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, joins me now. So, Tom, this is a victory for you. And some critics of the former Attorney General Jeff Sessions might even say it's a victory for the Justice Department to force them to do something that maybe they should have done before. What's your thought?
You know, one aspect of this ruling is the court didn't just criticize the Obama State Department and Justice Department, but highlighted the problem of this Justice Department continuing to defend the indefensible. He specifically talked about the chicanery of this Justice Department's continued defense and excuse-making for the misconduct of Hillary Clinton and the State Department and Justice Department previously. And he also talked about not being terribly convinced about Mr. Comey's testimony about the thoroughness of his Clinton email investigation. And it shows you the value, frankly, Harris, if we could promote Judicial Watch a little bit, of having an independent group like Judicial Watch focused on this, because Congress has dropped the ball here. The Justice Department, frankly, is on the other side of this, even during this administration. And, you know, the courts have been hoodwinked here, to use a phrase that the court highlighted in his decision. And so they're not going to back down. And now some people, like Mrs. Clinton, potentially are going to have to answer additional questions.
You know, I am curious about one point, because we have found out recently that Ivanka Trump also had her own personal email server with some emails on it, and she has talked substantively about how all of that sits on the White House server, and that nothing had been deleted. If critics of the Trump administration question about that comparatively to Hillary Clinton and what you're seeking, what is your answer?
Well, it frankly just highlights the egregious nature of what Mrs. Clinton did when you compare what happened with Ivanka Trump, where you had some emails about government business being sent on her private account before and after her work at the White House, emails by all accounts that were captured and preserved, which is in fact what they probably need to be. There's no legal prohibition on using personal emails for government business now and again. The difference here is Hillary Clinton specifically set up an email system to make sure no emails would be captured by the government and provided to investigators as long as she had anything to do with it, until, as the court highlighted, Judicial Watch caught them.
You know, there is another difference, too, that I see that I wonder, could your FOIA or could this investigation get to the bottom of? Will we ever know exactly how many and how the emails were destroyed? I mean, we've heard all sorts of stories about this was taken out into the woods and they attacked it and that server was destroyed. I mean, what are the facts that you know so far about that? That's important. It's the deletions. It's that sort of subterfuge accusation.
Well, at least half of the emails Hillary Clinton improperly took from the White House were destroyed, about 33,000 of them. As best we can tell, because we've been getting the emails that the FBI has been able either to recover or otherwise find, the FBI has only been able to find 5,000 of them. So there are, 27,000 emails still missing. And highlights the egregious nature, again, of what Mrs. Clinton did, this massive destruction of government records. She had no business taking any of these emails out of the State Department, and she did. And the American people deserve full answers. And frankly, the court, I think, is speaking for millions of Americans and demanding accountability here. And I hope the new Attorney General is paying attention to decisions like this, because this is what's going on in the Justice Department. They're defending Hillary Clinton while attacking President Trump on specious charges.
All right. Judicial Watch, as you said, important work that you were doing. FOIA is something that journalists use all the time. We'll be watching very closely. Thank you for coming on the program.
You're welcome, Harris. Thank you.
President Trump is trying to reassure a turbulent stock market as he continues negotiations with China. This is fear of a trade war sends the Dow into another spiral. Can the two sides reach an agreement? Stay close.